Hello and welcome to a new episode of Velocity Kinetics. This is hashtag building F1 team part 9. Last part I'm recording today. I think I've run through about 4 or 5 parts I think today. So the big part is drivers. This is what this piece is all about. Who would I hire out of the great plethora of drivers that are available for me to use? And test and development as well. Young driver, I'm not familiar with what young drivers are coming through, so I'm not going to answer that one, but as close of an answer as I am willing to provide is whoever has come no lower than 5th in GP2, depending on how close of a season it's been. If it's been a bad season, then I may not even pick one at all. So, how would I do my drivers? Would I have a number 1 and a number 2? Would I have 2 equals? Who would I like? There are a lot of choices, and a lot of drivers I would quite like to have. For instance, you got to love Alonso for being able to drag performances out of cars. You could give him a shopping trolley and he'd find a way of getting it around the track the fastest, or at least trying to get it around the track the fastest. You've got to admire Vettel a little bit for how he works with the team and the sponsors. Hamilton, I'm not big on Hamilton, but you can't deny that, much like Alonso, he will drag a performance out of a car that it doesn't deserve. Raikkonen, when he's on his on moments, good God, get out of his way because he's unstoppable. I'd like Jenson Button, Valtteri Bottas, Roman Grosjean. He wouldn't be a bad choice. Maybe a bit emotional, but not a bad choice. Magnussen, he's quick and got badly treated by the McLaren team. Van Dorn's looking promising. Felipe Massa would have been a good choice. Stroll, Sorokin, Kubica could be promising if he's got enough mobility in his arm. Fisichella, I think he's back racing with Ferrari, because the condition I stuck on the driver's condition is they have to be racing now. If they're completely retired, so for instance, I'd love to have a Rubens Barrichello, but I can't hire him because he's retired. Whilst Button is retired from F1, he is racing in Super GT in Japan. So that's how I could still have him, assuming I could tempt him back. However, what I would do, this might sound insulting to some. Some people might think it's a good move. If they are willing to work together, this isn't my drivers I'm naming just yet. What I'm going to have are 2 driver coaches. Doesn't matter who I hire, even if it's just someone for them to vent to at the other end of the phone, I would hire Jenson Button and Rubens Barrichello. Because between them, they've got nearly 600 Grand Prix under their belt. Why would you not want them? Rubens, I've always loved. He's so honest and refreshing. Now, I would probably run with an experienced driver and a younger blood, or someone who's got the possibility of being great, not necessarily young or new, to someone who's got the possibility of being great but needs some polish on them. Now, my test driver I would have is Bruno Senna, because I always liked him and I didn't think he got a fair crack at the whip. I would want him to be tested, to test and develop and get input from Rubens and Jensen to improve himself, because I wouldn't mind actually hiring him. For my main driver, good grief, who would I choose? Because there's so many out there. There's arguments to be made for everybody. I'd love to have Alonso, but given how their relationship with Honda has broken down, I probably wouldn't be able to get him to come on board. I would probably go with... oh God, I could just go around in circles. I don't know who to choose. Blah, blah, blah. Who to choose? I've got my driver coaches, Jensen and Rubens. Jensen also has worked closely with Honda for years, so advantage there. And if I chose Volvo, then I've got plenty of experienced heads to help me get the car pointing the engine in the right direction, and get the car and chassis all sorted out. That's the advantage of Jensen, Rubens, and to an extent Bruno. What I would do, because he hasn't got the championships he deserves, even though I've just said I probably wouldn't be able to get him signed, I will find a way of getting Alonso signed onto the team. Because even if my team's made a mistake in the chassis, he can at least drag some performances out of it to get us the championship points back. So Alonso, and then you got him working alongside Jensen and Rubens. Jensen and Rubens, of course, also worked with Honda. Bruno was going to be run by Honda, but when it went under and Braun took over, Braun needed the experience of Rubens. Otherwise, it would have been Jensen and Bruno in the Honda the next year. So actually, I've got 4 guys who have worked with Honda before, who will be able to get us pointing in the right direction pretty quickly. It leaves me the number 2 slot. I would love to have a British driver, but Palmer, he didn't set the world on fire enough for me. If he'd done a couple more sterling performances, I would have been tempted to have an English driver. But and if Susie Wolff was still racing, I'd have signed her in a heartbeat. Aside from whatever ties to Mercedes she has. What to choose? Who to choose? Because there's so many drivers who could benefit from Alonso's tutelage, and then the tutelage that Jensen and Rubens would offer. Bit of me's leaning towards Perez. I'm not big on the guy, but he's going to be stuck in a midfield trap. Hulkenberg, I'm leaning towards as well. I'm also leaning towards Valtteri Bottas, because I just like the guy. He seems so refreshingly open and approachable. And well, he will win races. Well, he's demonstrated in the Mercedes that he can win races. But then with all the experience that I've got, you could get in someone like a K-Mag or a Palmer, or who else have we got? An Ocon. You could get a Verline in, and potentially groom a super driver. But then you got some guys like, as mentioned, Perez, Hulkenberg, Grosjean, who are stuck in a midfield trap, and it'd be nice to get them out. Oh God, who to choose? That's before getting on to likes of PK in Formula E and Buemi in Formula E, and Andre Lotterer, although he didn't impress me when he was in the catering, but then again it was a dog. Then the likes of Fisichella. Granted, Fisichella doesn't need tutelage. He could do it one-handed. Likewise, Pedro de la Rosa. Could get Timo Glock in because he was always quite reasonable. Trudy would have been fantastic to have gotten in as a tutor as well. What I'm going to do, I'm going to have to split my seat answer, not do a seat share. This would depend on availability. I would sign Alonso number 1, Bruno test, Rubens and Jensen as development. I would then sign Grosjean as the second driver. The reason why I would sign Grosjean as the second driver, well, my first second driver, he's proved, yes, he can get a bit emotional and things, and some of his radio outbursts in the Haas have not been particularly constructive for his relationship with the team. It's obviously still good enough for him to still be at the team, but behind closed doors, he's probably been royally bollocked for it. But his performances in the Lotus when he was with Raikkonen, when he was paired with Raikkonen, were always pretty good after he got over all the crashes he had the previous season. The next season, he'd grown up. He took the car by the scruff of the neck. He came close to winning the Austin. Why was I going to say Australian then Austrian? The Austin Grand Prix, the American Grand Prix, came close to winning that. He got a dog rot of a Lotus up onto 3rd place on the podium when it was powered by Mercedes in its final year. Now, I know some say, well, it was Spa, it was Mercedes power, it should have gone that way, it only went because Vettel's tyres gave up. Maybe, but Grosjean had gotten himself into position to pick up the pieces off the back of Vettel's problem. So my first choice for second driver would be Grosjean. My second choice for second driver would be Valtteri, because, like I said, he's just a fantastic guy. Now, if I had to have a younger blood on the team, who better than Verstappen? So really, this is not as straightforward. It's create the sort of debate, at least internally for me, that I'd always kind of hoped it would create. So let's break it all down. So the actual in the car, number 1, Alonso. I'm not having number 1, number 2 driver. They're going to be treated the same. I don't care how many hissy fits Alonso throws. If you're going to get like them, fuck off. Is my answer. In which case, that'd be Grosjean to number 1, and then pull up one of the guys. So, Alonso, first seat. Grosjean is my first choice for the second seat. Then followed by Valtteri Bottas. It's very close between those two. Grosjean just edges him out. If I have to have a younger person take the slot, then it would be Max Verstappen. I have some driver coaches in the form of Rubens and Jensen. They can also help direct car design, help liaise with Honda, and just create a positive atmosphere within the workforce. The advantage as well, if we had a Verstappen, imagine what driver he would turn into paired with Alonso, tutored by Jensen and Rubens. Good God, you would have a super driver. And my testing reserve driver would be Bruno Senna, potentially to move him up to a race seat in a year or two. Again, whilst I would love to have dropped him straight into the seat, realistically, he's not been in F1 since the FW34, and given how the cars have all changed, he'd need a little bit of time to get back into place. Now, that might have caused a few shocks for some people. That people would have probably thought I'd have gone Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg might have gotten the seat, and I probably might have put Bruno first, and maybe try to convince Jensen back. Yes, I would love to be able to convince Jensen, but he's had enough. If he still wanted to be in F1, he'd still be there. So we've got to respect the man's wishes on that front. Anyway, get involved. Tell me who you would choose, or if my choices have shocked you, why. Get involved. Velocity Kinetics has been made in association with Road Race Parts. Top quality, best prices, no compromise. Head to roadraceparts.com to get parts for your racing vehicles now.